Alright, creatives, welcome back to XBrainStudio. This is part 3 of our Voucher Ticket Design tutorials. In part 1 and 2, we completed the entire front design of the voucher tickets, and everything came out as clean as professional. Today, we are moving straight into the back design of the voucher tickets. This is where we will add the important details like terms and conditions, contact information, brand elements, and anything that gives the voucher ticket its full value and functionality. So go ahead, launch your Photoshop now, get your workspace ready, and let's start building the back layout step by step. Let's dive right in. Okay, so this is where we ended the part 2. So this is the front design. So we are not working on the front design anymore. We are done with it. So we are switching to the back side. So let me quickly clarify something here so that it doesn't confuse some other people. So I have opened 3 different workspace here. So this is the first poster design that we did. Why I opened this is because I'll be picking up some informations from this session where I'll just do a copy and paste, and also this is kind of like the old design that I did, and I'll be using this to make some reference to what we are actually doing so that we don't do something different and then we actually go by the same design that we are doing. So this is just like a reference image that I have here, and this is the voucher ticket design that we are actually going to work on. So in this case, you'll be seeing me switching from one different file to a different file, so you don't be confused when you see me moving from one side to the different side. And also there will be an explanation throughout this tutorial, so you will understand everything that I'm doing and you won't be confused. So this is the front design. Now we've completed the front design, so we'll go ahead and then minimize this. So move to your layer, and then this is the front design layer, and then hit on the arrow down to minimize all those layers. And what we need to do now is let's put a lock to this layer so we don't distract it. So after selecting the front design layer, hit on the lock icon over here to set this lock over here. In this case, even when you click on it, it won't be active. So just switch off the invisible eye over here, and with the back side, now turn on the visible layer and also unlock this padlock over here so that we can have access to the background and also other layers that we want to create in it. So let's look at the reference design. So we are actually working on the back design. So this is what we'll be creating for the first. We'll have to create a shape this way. The part 2, the front design, we did this layer, which is this shape. But this time around, we want to do it the opposite way because we are designing for the back side. So we're doing the opposite way of this shape. Now let's go to the design page, and then let's start to create our first shape. So this is our background. It's already indicated. The begin is the background. So move to this section and then create a new layer, and then double click and then rename this layer to shape 1. So this is going to be our first shape that we are going to design. And when you are done, move to the tool section over here and then select the pen tool. So position your pen tool outside the artboard, and then what we need to do now is to create a first point over here, this section. So create a first point here, and do no hold shift when you want to slant this line. So you create this second line here, but this time you can hold the shift so that it gives you a straight line. Move to the top section, hold shift, and then hold shift to join these lines together. When you are done, just move to the top section over here and then click on the shape. This will actually give you the color of the shape. Now we need to create two of these shapes so we can have one under it. So we don't want to go ahead and then use the pencil tool to create it again. So what we need to do is just to duplicate it. I think I've already showed you how to duplicate, but for the sake of maybe the new people or those who are new to this channel, I would like to go again so that we all understand the process. So move to the layer section over here, click on this shape 1 and then hold Ctrl J. This will duplicate the shape. Now we want to adjust the shape below the first one. So this is the shape 1, named shape 1 copied. Now click on the second shape and then double click to rename it to shape 2, and then rename the first shape shape 1. So take off the copy so that we identify the shape 1 and shape 2. Now let's adjust the shape 2. Hold Ctrl T and it will select it, and let's adjust it, and let's change the color so we can identify those two shapes. Okay, so we've had our first shape. Now let's create a rectangular shape over here. With the rectangular shape, you can use the rectangular tool by left clicking. It will give you the other options. This is the rectangular tool, so we can use this as well, but I prefer to use the pencil tool because with this one, it's going to give you the accurate size of the triangle. But because of the shape that we have over here, because of the slanted shape, I want to use the pen tool so that I can adjust my lines and then create a very nice triangular shape over here. So let's go ahead and do it. But before then, make sure you create a new layer so that you don't attach the triangular tool to the other layer. Alright, so create a new layer over here. So click on the plus section to create a new layer, then double click and name this layer to be T-shape. You can use triangular shape, but I want to use T-shape, and I'll know that the T stands for the triangle. And then I'll move to my pen tool, and this time around I will select this section. So I'll click on the first two over here and then move to this section. So outside my layer or outside my my artboard, and then I'll create my first line over here. So I move to this section and then I hold my shift, create my second line, and what I have to do now is just to join it over here without using the shift. Okay, so this is the other triangular shape that we've created. Now what we need to do now is let's change the color for this shape. We have to create another shape below this, so you need to go under this triangular shape that we just created. So how do you do that? So move to your layer and then locate the first shape over here, click on it and create another layer. So in this case you have the T shape and then you have a new layer here. Why we created this layer is because we want the shape to be under this triangular shape. So if you move the new layer on top, when you create the shape, it's going to lie on top of the triangle. But this time around, we don't want it to lie on top of the triangle. We want it to go under this triangle. So it needs to be below the triangular shape layer we created here. And then let's rename this to bar. So bar shape, or you can say bar shape 1. And let's use the pen tool. So let's create our first line here to this section, and then create something like this. So we join it and we have something like this. In this case, you see that this is below the triangle. Now we need to do something. This first two shape that we have, which is the shape 1 and then shape 2. The shape 1 and the shape 2. I think the T triangle and the bar shape has to go below this two triangle or two shape that we created. So click on the T shape and then hold your control and select the second one, and then click and drag and move it below these two shape. So we have the shape 1 and the shape 2 on top of the T shape and then the bar shape. So this time around, when you shift the triangular, you wouldn't see the edge again, and also this will also move below it, something like this. Let's create another shape again below this T, below the bar shape. So click on the bar shape, Ctrl J, and then duplicate it and name it to be bar shape 2. So this time around, hold Ctrl T and then rotate to this direction and then let it be under this. So just scale it a bit and then push it below like this. And let's change the color for this one, something like this. So you can now see the black and then the brown. So this is what we just created. So make sure you're having something like this. Okay, so this is okay now. All right, so now let's try and then fix in our images, and then let's do some small modification and give some kind of shadow to all those shapes that we've designed. So before you add, make sure you select the shape that you want to create text marks in, and then locate your file, look for the image you want to use. So this is the image that I'm using. So you set this image on top of the shape 1 because that is the shape you are creating your flicking marks. So you put it on top and then you press enter. Now move to the layer option and right click and then select create flipping marks. So it will create something like this. So now you have your first image and the second image. Let me adjust the triangle a bit. Okay, something like this is okay. Okay. Okay, so this is okay. So the second image will go into this triangle. So you select the T, the triangular shape, and then I'll use this image right here. So I'll scale it a bit, holding my shift. I'll create my flipping marks, scale it a bit. Like this. Okay. Okay, so because the image, the triangular, is the image is too, it's not actually the right image that I used for my previous design. So this, I'm going to create something. So this is what you can also do. So though we don't have the same image, and then we are trying to make sure we have the full face of this nest over here. So after doing this, there's this shape over here, which is the color of the triangle. So we can click, and then we'll double click and then select the background color from the image. So in this case, you won't be able to notice if it's a joint or if the image wasn't full. So I think this one is okay. So what we need to do now is let's change this color to the dark blue. So I'm changing my color, and then same thing for second one. And then let's create a shadow for them. So the FX and then drop shadow. Adjust the size, and then the distance, and then reduce the opacity a bit. Okay, I think this one is okay. So we'll use the same thing for the bar 2 shape. We'll use the same thing. All right. So with the other shape, which is the yellow triangular shape, we'll also have to give it some shadow. So move to the layer section, the FX, and then select your drop shadow, and then increase the opacity a bit, and then the distance. Yeah, this is okay. Now let's make reference to the old design. So if you look at what we designed, though I didn't get the same exact image, but this is just like a tutorial, so you are not going to do the same design that I'm doing if a client has to ask you to do some ticket design. So the client will provide you the images, and then you will have to use it. So we will have to create this shape over here, and then afterwards we'll get back to the background and then the information and then the text inside. So let's create that triangular shape that we've seen over there. So click on the image here, create a new layer on top of it, and then use your pen tool. So plot the first point over here, and then plot the second one here, and then you join the lines together, and then you create your shape. So you change the color to the blue color. So this time around, what we need to do is we need to reduce the opacity so that we can see through the shape over here. So move to your layer section, and then beside the normal we have the opacity over here. So you can just size it a bit to 87. So in this case you can see through. So okay, so there we have our triangle also ready. Now the next thing is, so we need to adjust those colors. This is kind of a dark blue, so let's create the background first, and then afterwards we'll look at how we will do with those colors. So with the background, we had this layer already here. So select this background. Now let's create another shape for the background. So under this background, you can just use the triangular tool and then create this shape. Make sure you are creating this triangular tool. Make sure you are creating this rectangular shape on top of the background. if it goes on top of this shape, you won't be able to see all those layers anymore. That means you created a shape on top of the design, so it had to be below the shapes that we've created, which is the background. So what I just did, and then try and then double click and then change the color to blue, something like this, lighter blue. And now let's change this color to the dark blue. So I'm picking the dark blue from the lady's shirt. You can do it from Photoshop. When you click on it, it's actually going to select the color over here for you. So you do the same thing for the second one, then it gives you the actual shape, the color for this shirt. So now what we need to do now is we have to create these vectors inside the background, like how we did for the front design. So I'll move into my first poster design and then select this layer, this vector, which is the dot pattern vector. So Control C will copy it, and then I'll move to my voucher ticket and click on this section, and I'll paste it here. So now I have this pattern here. I'll have to adjust it. So you can also adjust it to your own preference, whichever way you want it to look like. You can do it the same. I will change the background color to a bit darker, not too much. And then what I have to do now is just to create some shadow over here so that it blends with this color. There's this kind of light blue shade reflecting on the background. So just on top of the dot pattern, the moment you click on the dot pattern, automatically it will highlight it on the layer section. So you just create a new layer, and then you can name this to be C shape. So the C shape will be a circular shape. So doing that, use the ellipse tool, and then you can use to hold your shifts. So without holding shift, this is how a circular shape will look like. But if you hold a shift, it will give you the accurate size. Okay, so now let's change this color to this lighter green or lighter blue, and then what we need to do now is we need to fade this shape. Doing that, you have to move to your property section and then locate the max. So this is the max section, and then try and then fade this shape using the feather feature or the feather tool over here. So look at what I'm doing. So you can see that it's changing. It's trying to fade the shape. So you can set it at 7.1 pixels and then hold Ctrl T to scale the shape. Okay, now let's look at the previous work. So something like this. All right,